If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our major stories. CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele meets with President Muhammadu Buhari over global crude oil price increase and its stabilizing effect on the naira. Senate raises hope on the passage of 2017 budget, gives indication that the appropriation bill will be passed next week. The leadership tussle in the PDP continues as the Supreme Court fixes May 25th to hear the case between the rival groups in the party. And on the foreign scene, 31-year-old Somali minister killed by the military who mistook him for Al-Shabaab militant. For more on our top stories and others, please visit our websites, channelstv.com and youtube.com/channelsweb. You can also watch us on the go on any mobile device. Log on to m.channelstv.com or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. Having the Channels TV and Channels 24 app will give you access to news and updates. You also have the Eyewitness feature, so you too can be part of the news. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the Eyewitness menu and follow the instructions to share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. To some of the pictures the Youth Centre Eyewitness portal, we begin with this one from Ikorodu area of Lagos State. It shows demolished shops and stores. According to our reporter, shop owners are lamenting the destruction of their shops without prior notice. He also raises concern over government's failure to provide an alternative before the demolition. Still in Lagos, the Ladipo area of the state comes our next image showing a bad section of the road. Eyewitness reporter says that this road is a nightmare for residents and motorists. He is pleading with the government to fix it. Our next image is from the Giado Villa along Makodi-Gboko Road in Benue State. This dump site, according to our Eyewitness reporter, not only defaces the area, but also pollutes the environment. He wants it cleared. This final image is from Maitama in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, showing herdsmen driving their cattle through a city street, cattle grazing. According to Eyewitness reporter, this act should be discouraged. Thank you for sending in those pictures, and please keep them coming. Patriotism is key to national development in pluralistic societies such as Nigeria. That's one of the values espoused at the launch of a book on a former Chief of Defense Staff, retired Lieutenant General Alani Akinrinade, titled My Dialogue with Nigeria, which held in Lagos on Wednesday. National leaders in the public and private sectors, both past and present, attended the event.
The faces you see here may suggest a political summit, but it's a book launch, My Dialogue with Nigeria, by a former Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Alani Akinrinade. Those present include Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State, Governor Aruf Aregbesola of Osun State, former governors, traditional rulers, industrialists, religious leaders, and retired army generals. The unveiling is the highlight of the occasion.
We are unveiling this book to the glory of God and to the glory of humanity.
The chairman of the event, Chief Obafemi Olopade, seized the opportunity to extol the virtues of his friend.
You can see from the attendance here today that there are lots and lots and lots of Nigerians who have come from all over the country. Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, Rivers, name it, they're all here. And it's a rarity.
And the founder of Elizade explains why his example should be emulated.
True and responsible Nigerian who wants the best for the country by dint of hard work, not pretending to do things.
Lieutenant General Alani Akinrinade speaks on matters that are of concern to him.
What we want to see is a major effort to do our structures. which will allow us to develop economically. All the money they are putting out now, giving to farmers, giving to this and that, without adequate power, cheap enough for people to use, that is a waste of time. 3/4 of what we produce are going to go to waste. Most of our factories are closing down, and they are not reopening. There's no question of reopening. A lot of them, people who closed their factories, have left the country, gone somewhere else.
My dialogue with Nigeria will now be on bookshelves across the country to add to the nation's rich literary heritage. Olumide Macaulay, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the general also took time out to talk about restructuring Nigeria. They show federal character and, of course, Nigerian lawmakers whom he referred to as dishonourable.
Serious about getting out of poverty. Instead, what do? We try to federalize poverty. You set up an education system, and you say that some people can get in certain spheres if they score 200, another one is 150. Which community does that and survives? They are facts of life. You cannot be leveling down simply because the man at your back is not ready to do the hard lifting and the running. What we should do is to raise the bar all the time. That's what everybody does. The whole world is going to the frontiers of science and technology. And what is Nigeria doing? We are busy quarreling, importing toothpaste, and spending money as if it's out of fashion. Meanwhile, our infrastructure is nowhere. Our school system has collapsed, but we also know that those who don't have respect for education, don't really invest in education, they're not going to make it anywhere in the world. So this is what, but we keep complaining about colonial system, about slave trade, and that those are several years ago.
That's over 100 years ago.
After 50 years of our own rule, we cannot get together to really do something that there's no discovering the wheel. Nobody is asking us to do something new. The world has done it, and they've based the template. All we do is to say, oh, Nigeria is different from Singapore, it is true. Nigeria is different from Malaysia, here it is true. It's different from India, it is true. Why don't we aggregate that difference like they did and start to build ourselves instead of someone sitting down in Aso Rock and saying he can issue an instruction to a farmer in Beninkebi and the one in Idokwa in Delta State. He has never been there. It's too far away. The government is too far away from the people. So we have to break this thing down. We have to cut our coats, not according to our size, but according to our resources. We are not doing that now. My state cannot afford the governor. That's the truth of the matter. And my country cannot afford the number of so-called people in the National Assembly. We cannot afford them. That is why they can be singing and what is it? In our own senator, a man representing us at this part of the century where the world is, and all these clowns are there, and we are saying that we should not talk about them. We should call them honorable. They're the most dishonorable people I know in the world.
Retired Lieutenant General Alani Akinrinade expressing his issues. But let's toss it over now to Abuja, where Malpe will be standing by with more on the news at 10. Hi, Malpe.
Well, hello and thank you, Amarachi. This year's edition of the World Economic Forum kicked off today in Durban, South Africa, with a theme, Achieving Inclusive Growth Through Responsible and Responsive Leadership. A number of serving and former African leaders are attending, including Zimbabwe's President, Robert Mugabe. Our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, reports.
There are a number of sitting and former heads of government from Africa among the more than 1,000 delegates from over 100 countries gathered here to talk about boosting inclusive growth through responsible and responsive leadership in Africa. Many meetings and panel discussions have already been taking place ahead of this opening ceremony, and the founder of the WEF, Professor Klaus Schwab, raised issues on preparedness for the fourth industrial revolution, addressing youth unemployment and what he calls the crisis of leadership on the continent.
We all know about the potential of Africa,
But it needs more. It needs trust in the soundness of the institutional system. It needs trust in democracy.
President Jacob Zuma of South Africa admitted to some of the failings on the continent and suggested some ways the situation can be salvaged.
As African countries, is to diversify our economies away from dependence on commodities so that they become less vulnerable to commodity shocks.
Answering questions from young participants, President Zuma said youths must not only be heard, but be more engaged in governance, like he says he's done in his now controversial cabinet reshuffle. Some of the social entrepreneurs were honored for the difference they're making in various African countries. The meetings continue, but we asked some of the participants why they do not consider this another futile talk session.
That we should be here discussing how to ensure that Africa's growth is inclusive is extremely important.
I would like to say get everybody involved, because the issue of the continent is that wealth, power has been trapped by a little group of people, so we all feel desperate.
The forum ends on Friday, the 5th of May. From the Albert Luthuli International Convention Center, Durban, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
While talking more local economics now, the federal government's Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, the ERGP, may have begun to yield fruit as heads of Japanese corporations have expressed interest in locating factories and projects in Nigeria following the evaluation of the plan. Now, the Minister of Trade and Investment, Okechukwu Enenama, says that the Presidential Council on Ease of Doing Business will continue to work to ensure that Nigerians benefit fully from new investments. But it's not yet Uhuru, as Japan's ambassador to Nigeria says they're closely watching the 2017 budget formulation process before making final assessments.
The nations that have created enough jobs, particularly when they have a teeming population like we do, a population of 170, 180 million people at the last count, must create jobs in those areas that soak up a lot of jobs. And manufacturing, industrialization, value adding, as opposed to selling primary commodities, tends to absorb more people. And therefore, it has to be done in country. So when we are told that Japan is coming with its business interest to meet, we're very interested, because we're a country that has industrialized very well and is now at a phase where you can take industrialization abroad. Is a particular focus on agriculture and food processing and what you might call food security in general. A commitment to say that we ought to take advantage of where we are located, of our what you might call geographic location, in terms of being in the tropics and being an area where you can grow almost anything. And again, we need partners to do that, to get the most out of agriculture.
This is a very good timing, because this is the time the Nigerian government has concluded some, for example, economic recovery and growth plan, and we understand that the new budget is now being discussed at the National Assembly, and also the Enabling Business Council has concluded the 6 days action plan on the ease of business. So there are many movements, and Japanese companies, I think, catch this moment.
Now, when the news at 10 returns, the Central Bank of Nigeria lifts ban on forex allocation for small imports. That's on Business News. Join us again.